Today, we're diving into an incredibly powerful story of transformation. It's a story about how a human spirit, when it's pushed to the absolute edge, can find the strength not just to survive, but to be completely reborn. You know, we're actually going to start at the end with this powerful line that concludes the whole story. It really frames our entire journey. This tells you right away, we're not just talking about a physical fight, this is about a spiritual resurrection. But what does that even mean? How can a person find freedom while they're still legally in chains?
So that's the big question we're going to tackle. We're going to zero in on a single pivotal moment in one man's life, a moment that completely redefines the very meaning of freedom itself. To really understand the heaven of freedom, we first have to see the tomb of slavery. So let's take a look at the absolute despair our narrator was in, the state he was in right before everything was about to change.
So, the scene opens with our narrator at his absolute lowest point. He's sick, he's exhausted, can't even work. And instead of getting any kind of mercy, he's met with just unimaginable brutality from his temporary master, Mr. Covey. We're talking a savage kick, getting kicked again, beaten over the head with a piece of wood, and just left there bleeding on the ground. This isn't just punishment, it's a deliberate attempt to completely break him.
Wearied in body and broken in spirit. This phrase says it all. It's not just about being physically tired, it's the death of hope. This is his state of being, a total psychological defeat. He's been stripped of everything, and it seems like there is absolutely nothing left.
So, what do you do when you hit rock bottom? You look for a way out, right? You appeal for help. But this next part, this is the moment where every single one of those doors gets slammed shut, extinguishing that last little flicker of hope he had in the system.
This sequence right here shows the total and utter failure of the system. He's horribly injured, but he drags himself 7 miles to his legal master. He shows up literally covered in blood, living proof of the abuse. And he begs, just pleads for protection. And the response? Nope, total rejection. He's actually ordered to go back to his tormentor. It makes it crystal clear the system isn't there to protect him, it's there to control him.
And here's why. This quote from his master just lays bare the cold, hard reality of his world. His life, his safety, his suffering, none of it matters as much as a year's wages. In this equation, he's not a person. He is a piece of financial property. This is the moment he truly gets it. He is completely and utterly on his own.
So in this state of total desperation, after the official power structure has completely failed him, he turns to, well, an alternative one. A fellow slave, Sandy, gives him this root. It's a kind of folk charm. Now, whether the root is actually magic isn't really the point. What's so important here is that it represents a belief in a power that is outside of the master's control. It's a tiny seed of defiance.
And that little seed of defiance, it brings us right to the climax of the story. This is the turning point, where that crushed spirit we just saw is about to be forged into something entirely new, all in a single, prolonged act of resistance. So the moment arrives. Covey ambushes him in the stable, rope in hand, all ready to deliver another brutal beating. The expectation from Covey, and really from the entire world at that time, is that our narrator will just submit like he's always done.
But this time is different. And this, right here, this is the most important moment in the entire narrative. It's not a big speech. It's not some grand gesture. It's a simple, quiet, internal decision. I resolve to fight. That's the birth of his resurrection. From that one simple thought, everything explodes.
And I mean, it really explodes. He doesn't just block a punch, he seizes Covey by the throat. When another man, Hughes, tries to help, he kicks him away. He even throws his master to the ground. And maybe the most telling part is when Covey calls for another enslaved man, Bill, to help him, Bill just refuses. The narrator's defiance is so powerful, it shatters Covey's authority right there in front of everyone.
And get this wasn't just a quick scuffle. The struggle lasts for nearly 2 hours. Just think about that for a second. 2 full hours of sustained, brutal physical resistance. It's an incredible testament to his newfound will to not just survive, but to assert his own humanity. Okay, so the battle is over. What now? This is where we see the immediate and permanent results of his actions. The entire power dynamic has just been flipped on its head. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you've got before, a man who could be beaten at will. On the other, after, a man who stood his ground. The result, Covey never laid a hand on him in anger for the next 6 months. By fighting back, he didn't just win a fight, he drew a new boundary, and his oppressor was now too afraid to cross it.
What's so crucial here is how the narrator himself sees it. He decides that Covey had not whipped him at all. The attempt was made, sure, but it failed. In his own mind, he was the victor. He had won, and that psychological victory was everything. And that victory leads us to the final and most important outcome of all, the resurrection of his spirit. The change wasn't just about how Covey saw him, it was about how he saw himself. The fight was basically a catalyst for a complete internal rebirth. It rekindled those dying embers of freedom. It revived his sense of his own manhood. It recalled his self-confidence. Everything that slavery had tried to crush, his hope, his dignity, his will, it all came roaring back to life in that 2-hour struggle.
And this, right here, this is the heart of it all. This is the resurrection. Legally, on paper, he was still enslaved. He was still someone else's property, but in his own mind, in his spirit, he was no longer a slave. He might be one in form, but he was no longer one in fact. He had taken back ownership of his own soul.
And that's really the core question this story leaves us with, isn't it? It masterfully shows that the deepest kind of enslavement isn't about external chains. It's about an internal, broken spirit. And it proves that true freedom, the kind that can never be taken away, begins with that simple but powerful resolution to fight back.